appropriate a $50.2 million line item in the budget, but we have also, as of last Thursday, submitted an additional $300,000 request for the schools. This is actually the school's share of healthcare savings from this current fiscal year. So we're in fiscal year 15, and the budget before everyone right now was a fiscal year 16 budget. In the 15-year budget, we appropriated over $500,000 more in our budget than what we are actually going to be spending on healthcare. So we've actually had a significant amount of healthcare savings, but approximately 50% of that is actually school savings, because that healthcare line item is the entire city, including the schools. So we are reallocating those funds to the school, and that is before the council for their approval right now. Okay, moving on to Resource Committee.
We have started negotiations with the Teachers Association, and those will be ongoing.
Okay, that's School Personnel Committee.
Oh, no, Resource.
Resource Committee. Yeah.
Nothing for Resource.
And Policy Committee.
We have two policies coming up for our second readings: the comprehensive sexual health education policy and the homework policy, and there are no meetings planned at this time.
Okay, student support.
We just had our meeting tonight. It was at the end of the year. We have been in the habit of doing kind of wrap-up meetings with a real kind of looking ahead, as well as looking at what we have in our schools. And we really focused on a very detailed survey that was conducted last April by Jana Harrison, our school champion, which had to do with school choice. So the big picture is, we have a vibrant, robust, academic, student support. We have a school, we have schools that are only growing and expanding and improving, and the rest of it. However, it is curious to all of us as to, does everyone know that? Does everyone know that? Do we reach out, and how do we reach out? So we discussed some of the reasons why there is school choice, and we had some ideas in the course of our meeting in terms of what are the pieces that that we need to address. One of them, of course, being academic rigor. Parents who choice out because of their perception of academic rigor not being sufficient here. And the reality is, we have lots of academic rigor. We also have programs in all of our schools, not just one school. We don't have one school that is the academically rigorous school. All of our schools are. And we also talked about intramural competitions. Our technology director, Eileen Spinney, let us know that there are a number of these kinds of competitions. So given that kids who are athletic have all kinds of resources in terms of competing against other schools, we have that in our schools, and we are looking to expand that in the coming year, particularly with, the VEX Legos program, looking into doing that, as well as I think science fairs was discussed. We also, we have the Math League coming up on June 11th. I believe Donna is here to tell us more in detail, but we learned a lot about the incredible interest in math at our schools, a really staggering number of kids who want to be part of the math clubs and who want to compete. And I think that's great because, frankly, we can use, cheerleaders for all of our academic programs. And I feel like the cheerleaders should be the whole community. So I'll turn it over. Matt and Jean, I know you have more to add because it was a very detailed and fascinating meeting on this topic.
I think we really recommitted to our kindergarten program. I think just in general, people should be getting in touch with their state legislators to ensure that the state supports full-day kindergarten. I know we will in this city, but it's one of those funding pieces that is on the chopping block, and it's so vital that it be funded. So if people are watching, it's going to committee, and people should really get in touch with their legislators and make their opinions known about that. But I think a lot of the things that we talked about will serve as direction for next year.
Yeah, we also talked about the idea of a feeder system. The fact is that when we have parents signing up for kindergarten, it's great knowing that they're coming. But what are we doing to get our preschools? What are we doing to reach out to parents who have preschool-age children? And I can say that one thing that we will do, and I'll remind everyone again in 2 weeks, Fitchburg Public Schools will have a booth, will have a tent at the block party. So we'll have an opportunity to reach out to many, many, many parents. And we'll have some nice giveaways for little ones there, too, I think. But the idea that once once you're here, let's keep you here, because kids who do go to public schools to Fitchburg Public School for their 12 years are going to be successful. I ran into not a child, he's now a senior, someone I'd been very concerned about, who's a student at Fitchburg High School, and I met him when he was a middle schooler who was in and out of school, sometimes at the choice of the school because of decisions he'd made. And I asked him what his plans were after graduation, and he had applied to Mount Wachusett. And this was fantastic. He also mentioned that he would look into, possibly working alongside his father. But the fact that he had gone to the effort and had applied and I believe been successful, that he had that choice of going to Mount Wachusett, I thought, thank you, Fitchburg Public Schools. I mean, this is a kid I've worried about for a number of years, having met him at Elm Street Church, when he probably weighed about 45 pounds. So this is I see the tangible work that our schools do. Matt, anything to add?
I think you covered it very well. More to talk about at the retreat and things like that, but that was good.
Yeah. So thank you, and we will student support will reconvene again in September, and of course we'll be discussing these items and more at our retreat when that is scheduled.
Student personnel, we already talked about
Okay,
that.
we talked about that we are in negotiations.
Okay, student report.
Hi, everybody. So, school year's ending, and for the seniors, it's basically already ended. The seniors graduate on Friday, so if anybody wants to go to the graduation, I've been to the two that I've been at Fitchburg High for, and they're always fantastic. Hopefully by next year I actually have the alma mater memorized, but I'm getting there. This entire week the seniors have been doing, it's senior week, so they do all of these cool little projects. They have the class trip. I believe that today there was a community service project / pizza day. So I really think that they're enjoying themselves this week. They finished their finals last week and now they're out. It's amazing. Really good news, the unified track team, does everybody know what that is? For the people at home, the unified track team is a partnership between special needs athletes and regular athletes and volunteers, and the meets run like normal track meets would, and they get to compete against other unified track teams, and it's really a great experience for everybody. And I am very pleased to say that the Fitchburg High Unified Track Team came in first for the Central Massachusetts meet.
Congratulations.
I also know that our students have been getting very active now that spring is finally here and all the snow is melted. There's been a lot of volunteers helping out at the Memorial Garden. So they've been helping planting and, working alongside teachers and students, and I have a few names here, and I'm sure that there are plenty that I'm leaving out, but these are the ones that stood out to me. Zach Hyveranen, Sabrina Hyveranen's twin brother actually, Kevin Ha, and Augustine Sanchez. So really exemplifying what it is to be a Red Raider right there. Speaking of, Boys and Girls State, they leave on the 13th to spend a few days learning what it is to be an exemplary citizen. Have I explained Boys and Girls State? I don't quite know if people know what that is.
We know, but there's
Okay.
people at home that might not know.
Okay. So it's basically where an organization gets a bunch of teenagers who are interested in leadership, and they gather them all together in one place from Massachusetts, and they teach them what they think it means to be a leader, what they think it means to be a citizen, and you go through the process of electing officials, electing people to school committee, to mayor, and all these different positions, and you run for, gradually, as the week progresses, positions that are higher up until eventually somebody becomes governor. And then I believe that students are picked to go to Girls or Boys Nation, and that's a collective sort of group from all the 50 states, and I believe they get to meet the president. So it's a lot of fun, I've heard. Class elections are going to start soon as well. I know for the juniors, campaigning has already begun. This means that a new set of class officers will come in, and hopefully for me, a few of the old people will stay there as well from this year. I'm crossing my fingers. But I know that everybody, it's always a fun time of year because you get to see like who's really interested in the class. You get to hear everybody's excited plans for next year, and it's one of my favorite times of year. I know that everybody in the school is very excited, but I think that everybody's also a little bit tired. That's the climate that I'm getting right now. Everybody's, especially if you're a senior, you're very excited. The juniors are excited now that the lunch lines have gone down. Oh my God, it's wonderful.
Important things in life.
Yep, I have my priorities straight. And I think that everybody can also see their goals finally. So I know that some students, teachers might have been worried about at the beginning of the year, but I think that they're seeing their goals actualized, and that's a really good feeling. But at the same time, you spent an entire year getting to those goals, and it takes a lot out of you. So I think everybody's happy but tired. Thank you.
Thank you. Great.
Are you running re-election?
Yeah, I am.
As chairman of the Alumni Association, I really am interested in the high school elections, the class elections, because people who are elected as seniors are going to represent your class for the rest of your life.
Yep, you plan the
And
reunions.
When we just had our alumni meeting, the class of 65 had about 40 people there. And the class of 90 had none. So I mean, it really, you're the ones who generate your reunions and just participation in the alumni and other events in Fitchburg. So I hope the people running in your class are going to represent you well for the next 50, 60 years.
We've got a good group of students.
Okay.
Elizabeth, I just wanted to say, your name and Jeremy's here, right, so he can correct me if I'm wrong, but Elizabeth is a national merit?
Yes, she is.
Scott, I just want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
That's an incredible honor, and I think you're off to a great future here. And you've presented so well all year, as Sabrina did as well, but just congratulations. That's quite an achievement.
Thank you.
So.
Deserves an applause. I think Mr. Stevens is going to contribute to your campaign. I don't know. He may have to fill out some ethics forms on that. I'm not sure. But
And I was so happy. Lizzie was in, and I didn't know she was in the audience, but when we unveiled the Red Raider, and I said to my friend Lizzie, fantastic, and she was there.
Great.
All right, we're going to move on to the approval of the meeting minutes, May 18th.
Motion to approve them?
Okay, motion made and second. Any questions, comments, revisions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Any business or communications?
Yep, got a few. Sort of starting in order, this coming Sunday, the 7th of June, there will be a special fundraiser for Stratton Players, and there will be some Fitchburg Public School students involved. Meet me at the Tonys, which is going to be a live broadcast of the Tony Awards, which is the Super Bowl for theater folks. That is happening at the Fay Club, starting with a red carpet arrivals, 7 p.m. Sunday night. You can get tickets, which are just $35 for the evening at the Fay Club, including all kinds of refreshments, for $35 at strattonplayers.com or 978-345-6066. Next coming up is going to be the Civic Engagement Seminar. So we've done this since, what is it, Mayor? Since 2011. This is going to...
2008.
Was it 2008? You're right, with the Unity breakfast. So, gosh, it's our 5th year, or more, actually. So the Civic Engagement Seminar will take place on Saturday, June 20th at 10 o'clock at the Cleghorn Neighborhood Center. This is it's a seminar discussion workshop. If you're interested in running for office or serving on boards and commissions, please come. You can learn more about what that is. If you're interested in running for office, because the school committee, city council, and mayor's office are all elected positions, there, of course, is procedure and protocol, and there are folks there who will tell you how you can run for office and what are the steps you need to take. And also, it's a great place to get encouragement for helping Fitchburg in a very practical way. We always get folks from out of town. It is not limited to Fitchburg residents. We welcome anyone to come, and that is Saturday, June 20th at the Cleghorn Neighborhood Center at 10 o'clock till about 11:30. There will be refreshments. Finally, my favorite holiday of the year after Mother's Day is DPW Day. This is our 7th year for that. And really, there's no presents for DPW Day. It's like hanging out with DPW, looking at trucks with hundreds of kids. We just got our flyers. We are going to get, Amanda Keck is getting flyers to all 4 elementary schools, so kids will be bringing these home. It will be on Wednesday, June 10th, 2 to 5 p.m., rain or shine. We put those trucks in the garage, so everything is nice and dry. There will be a bouncy house. There is going to be a giant sand pile, and by giant, I mean about maybe the length of this room. There is that much sand, and you really want to wear play clothes. And of course, you can see the trucks, the grader, the plows, the excavator close up. We are also having a poster contest. We always have Fitchburg Public School kids apply to that, and you can bring your painting or drawing of a DPW scene. One of my favorites was a picture of a ton of trucks and the giant letters saying, "Keep DPW always working." Like, it's a wonderful logo. So you can bring your artwork to DPW that day or the 2 days before. We will have a reception for the kids in June 22nd. Our sponsors this year are GNFA Bank. We have Rollstone Bank and Trust, Workers Credit Union, Representative Steve D. Natale, as well as Webster First and IC Credit Union. So we have great support, and we really look forward to Title I, which is going to come. Eva Kelly will come along with Fitchburg Library. We're going to have a story time there, and really great literacy events at DPW Day as well. And Lenny Laxo, our commissioner, he is getting a lot of DPW sort of informational newsletters. Kids who are interested in public works careers are really being very smart, because those careers will not be outsourced. And we'll have information about those careers as well. So Wednesday, June 10th, 2 to 5, rain or shine, and we've got police vehicles and water trucks and fire trucks, and it's just truckapalooza. So come on down.
Lenny had an article in the paper today, so it was in today's Sentinel.
Oh, hooray, hooray. Thank you.
A couple of civic events. I want to thank everybody for coming out to the city's Memorial Day ceremonies. Those were held not this past weekend, but the weekend before. This past weekend, the Ward 4 and 5 downtown cleanup with the Crossroads Church was tremendous. We had over 500 volunteers come out, which was twice last year. We had 35 major projects going on, including trash, just the normal trash pickup. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out. What a tremendous day that was. Coming up June 4th is Goodrich Academy's graduation. That's at 6 p.m. And then, of course, on Friday is the high school. And then on Saturday at the Senior Center from 4 to 6, there is a anti-bullying fundraiser. I believe it's a small dollar donation. And that's all in my schedule for now. Any other communications or business? Okay, seeing none, we're moving on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to invite, I'm going to ask Janet to come up because she might have more information, but we're inviting Ebony Fagan to come up, who has been recognized as the Youth of the Year by the Boys Club of Fitchburg and Leominster. And I know she's here with other people. I don't have everybody's names here, so if you can come up and do the introduction, and then whoever else is here with you, if there's somebody here from the Boys and Girls Club to speak, and please come and do so. We don't often get the Boys and Girls Club here, so it's also an opportunity for you to say a little bit about the program and what you do. Welcome, and introduce yourselves.
So these people are from the Boys and Girls Club, which is located in Leominster, but represents Fitchburg and Leominster. And Ebony Fagan is from the club and has received a great honor. And with her is John Blodgett, right?
Yeah, correct.
And I forget your name.
Desiree Dudley.
Desiree Dudley, and they'll be telling you about the honor that has been bestowed upon Ebony and how she was selected, and a bit about the program that she's participating in.
And I'll be speaking. So each year, the club chooses one of the teens from the Teen Center. This year, I believe we had 240 teens sign up and become members this year. And each year, we look at all of our teens and we pick someone who exhibits leadership, character within the club, gives back to their club. This year, actually, Ebony is the president of our leadership club. She helps organize all of our community service projects, our club service projects, and some of our fundraisers. So usually myself and a few of the club members will select a few of the kids, and through voting and process, we select one, and she would represent us at the state level this year. She went to the State House and represented the Boys and Girls Club of Fitchburg, Leominster, and yeah, super proud.
That's great.
You're a junior at Pittsburgh High,
Yes.
correct?
Hey, and it looks like you came prepared to say something to us. So great.
Sorry, I'm really nervous.
So don't be nervous. You're only on television with millions of viewers.
Hello, my name is Ebony, and I've been a member of the Boys and Girls Club of Fitchburg and Leominster for 3 years. I would just like to start by saying what an honor it is to be standing here today and to even be considered for Youth of the Year. For those of you who aren't really sure what Youth of the Year is, it is someone who is considered to have perseverance, good leadership skills, life goals, persistence, and a representative of the club. They strive to be great at everything they do and take every opportunity that comes their way. I think that is why I was so surprised when John wanted me to be Youth of the Year. I thought to myself, my life is so ordinary and I don't really do anything but go to the club. But I never really noticed the impact that I was making on the club and on the people there. I also never considered myself a go-getter. I just thought I went to the club. I didn't really do much. In fact, I hate talking about myself, like I said, and my accomplishments, because I always feel like I'm bragging, even though everybody tells me I should because of all the things I do, but I've never been one to talk about myself. I realized that I do a lot of things and that I always thought of as ordinary. I take dual enrollment so that it's less money for me for when I go to college, so that I can save money for when I'm older. I once taught a piano class to the juniors, which is the younger kids at the club, because I think we should incorporate more arts into the club, and piano is my passion, so I just thought, why not combine the two? I joined our Keystone Leadership Group because I wanted to learn more about what it takes to become a leader. I never once thought I would become the president. I remember the first thing I thought to myself was, since I was elected president, was, wow, people are going to start looking at me, and I'm going to be impacting and influencing the people around me just because of my position. I thought, but I also knew I would never live up. I also knew I would have to live up to the president label through my actions, and I had to lead by example, and I was big deal, a lot of pressure. If I'm being honest, it made me really nervous, and I started to question if I really deserve it. I thought that to myself until the day John asked me to be Youth of the Year. Being selected for Youth of the Year has really made me rethink everything that's been happening around me. It's been a real eye-opener for me and really taught me how to have faith and confidence in myself, and that I really do need to believe in myself. And for that, I couldn't have more gratitude for the opportunity and for my club. It's my home away from home, and thank you for letting me come here today and talk about my amazing experience as Youth of the Year for 2015.
Wow. So I'm not sure how good that would have been if you weren't nervous. It was spectacular for someone who says they're nervous. Really, really well said. Folks have questions about
I want to
anything?
just congratulate you, and I think the fact that you're being so humble about it makes it even better.
Thank you.
Because, when you have to talk about yourself, it
Yeah.
sort of turns other people off, so that's wonderful.
So Ebony, I'll just say that I think one of the tricks to talking about yourself is to understand that you're talking about what you love,
Yeah.
not necessarily what you do or who you are, because I think what you love is what you do, and what you love is who you are. And that's probably why you've risen to leadership positions, not because you sought that out, but because you're doing what you loved, and you're being recognized for that. So I would be proud of that, and I would be proud to talk about what you love to do. I want to congratulate you on all of the leadership things that you've done at the club. You're only a junior, so you have a quite a year ahead of you, now that you're a public figure now, and there's expectations placed on you.
Millions of people.
To millions of viewers on FATV. But I just want to encourage you to just take this year to explore. I mean, you went to the State House. I hope that planted a seed of politics inside of you.
I want to be a lawyer.
All right. Absolutely. So take the opportunity, intern with lawyers, get to meet the community. But I just hope that you know I know that you're humble, and I know that you do what you love, but you really can do anything. And I hope that you take that opportunity, especially in your last year in Fitchburg, to find that out.
Thank you.
Now, what other things are you doing? You mentioned that you're part of dual enrollment at Fitchburg State or at Mount Wachusett, and what
Fitchburg
other
State.
things are you doing at?
Fitchburg State. I'm also in the Upward Bound program.
Oh, okay.
And I'm actually, they have a summer program, but I'm not doing it. I'm actually, John stole me away, and now I'm working there this summer.
Oh, good. Great.
But I took dual
So
enrollment
people are
classes.
already fighting over you.
Yeah. She was really upset when I told her I wasn't going to be going there this summer. But yeah, I take the dual enrollment classes so that I can just save more money because I know it's so expensive. The classes that I take are normally $1,000, and I don't have to pay anything because Upward Bound pays it for me.
That's phenomenal. That's just fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for
Thanks
what
for
you
having
do,
me.
and thank you for representing Fitchburg High School and the city of Fitchburg, because that's what you do, and people are already recognizing that, and that's just a wonderful thing. And thank you to both of you, and for the support that you give not only her, but all the students that go there every day. I only hear fantastic things about the experience there and the quality program. I hear over and over and over again the quality program that's happening at your location. So thank you. Great.
Nice job.
Lisa had talked about, Liz had talked about, Liz had talked about seniors, and I have to, Jeremy is here for a reason, and he's here with an unusual request. It was a last-minute request that he spoke to me about this afternoon, and knew there was a school committee meeting tonight, so I'm going to let him talk about it, and it has to do with seniors and senior week. So, Jeremy,
Yes, thank you.
he even went home and put a tie on.
I did,
to come,
yes. Have to be very official. I got to say about Ebony, too, she's had 0 absences in the 3 years she's been at Fitchburg High.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, 3.2
Why doesn't Go Local
GPA,
report
and-
that?
Yeah, no kidding. So, we are in the midst of senior week, as Lizzie described. So there's a lot of different activities going on, and the weather is kind of throwing a monkey wrench into one of the big ones, which is the senior class trip. So we do rehearsals every day. We do more than maybe the typical high school, at least the ones I've worked in, because they do a lot of practice. We practice the alma mater, we practice the class song, we do a lot of different things there. And so each day this week there's activities, and Tuesday is the day we've set aside, since I've been at Fitchburg High anyway, to do a class trip. And the kids, we had 104 seniors sign up this year, which is definitely a high amount for us. We've been averaging maybe 50 to 70, somewhere in there. So kids are really excited about going to Six Flags tomorrow. But the weather at 52 degrees for a high and 100% rain just didn't look good. So when we came in today to do the rehearsals, the discussion was it's not going to work out, but we still want to do something. And we want to do it as a class. We can certainly go off on our own, and this is what they were talking about. But we'd like to do it as a class. We have buses, we have this and that. So we now we're in scramble mode. So the best source of information for cool things to do is definitely students. And the one that sort of rose to the top for an exciting thing to do, and much safer than Six Flags, I would add, is Chunky's Cinema Restaurant, which I had never heard of. And there's a couple different locations. There's one in Haverhill, Mass., and there's 2 in New Hampshire. There's one in Nashua, one in Pelham. So we looked at Faneuil Hall, but again, the rain didn't seem appropriate for that. There were a couple things. So Chunky's was the one. It was very democratic. After rehearsal was done, the kids stayed back. We did some boating, talking, this kind of thing. little bit of yelling, but it was all positive. That was just to get, attention. So Chunky's was definitely the one that the students really wanted to do. We're ready to go. The problem is their Haverhill site was unable to accommodate us, and they could only accommodate us at the Nashua site. So it's Monday, and we have the out-of-state, the out-of-state field trip policy. The reality is it's much closer than Agawam.
Right.
It's actually inside in a theater. We'll all be in one room, whereas at Six Flags, we kind of let them go, and they have our cell phones, and Mr. D and I just, we kind of cross our fingers that they're all back at the buses at whatever time. That really won't be the case here. Basically what it is you go in, you have a big, I think, theater, really, but it's set up like a restaurant, too, and they're going to there's a menu that they've worked out, and it's popcorn and different things like this, and pizza, and then the movie apparently is San Andreas, which I think is some kind of like action disaster film of some sort. So I wouldn't...
I want a chaperone. I love those movies.
Yes, I'm actually going to be one. So I called Mr. Ravenel this afternoon because, again, this was, our rehearsal goes to 10:30. We were sorting out if Chunky's could do it, and then we were really hinging on Haverhill, and it just didn't work out in Haverhill. So I asked, would it be possible to come in and speak to you for a few minutes to see if it was possible to expedite the out-of-state field trip policy to Nashua for tomorrow for the senior class trip. And that's basically the details and why I'm here today. So
So a number of the things were in place already. The busing hasn't changed.
Yeah.
That was already set
all the
up.
permission slips, all the
permission
contact
slips, all the
information,
chaperone,
all that
but
stuff.
No, it's not.
We have a policy that says if it's out of state, it has to go to school committee, and
Right.
I didn't feel it was within my jurisdiction to,
Yeah.
not follow the policy, and it had to come here.
And that's why we called right away, too.
Okay.
Make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we add this to our agenda for tonight.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's now added to the agenda.
Could I make a motion to take that out of order? And we vote on that now, so Jeremy would have time to make any communications
Yeah.
that he would have to.
I'll second that, yeah.
Okay, motion made and second to take it out of order. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And now for the trifecta.
I'll make a
Yeah,
motion
the
that
last
we
one.
allow Fitchburg High seniors go to Nashua, New Hampshire on an out-of-state field trip.
Second.
Second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, have fun at Chunky's.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
All right.
Thanks a lot, I
And-
appreciate it. And we'll see you June 5th.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're looking closely at that, too, so I appreciate it very much.
One more quick thing on what Mr. Roach sent us today. It was, Jeremy, that was wonderful. All the activities that went on in the high school
Yeah,
for this
thank you.
past year. Ms. Fagan was
Yeah,
listed in it.
absolutely.
Ms. Moisen was listed in it.
Definitely.
And all the activities, it was just wonderful. I just loved it. And the amount of work that went into it, that was very, very good. Thank you,
Well,
Jeremy.
yeah, I appreciate that. As we all know, there are so many positive things that go on at Fitchburg High, and I try to just send one email to the faculty a day, because I know they won't read more than that. But I try to, I'll put 4 or 5 things in it and try to find a positive. So just scouring through the emails through the day, it's a good reminder to me and for our faculty and for the community about people like Lizzie and Ebony Fagan and different clubs and organizations like United, the Unified Track Team, and they're actually state champions is what I'm telling people, and that's because that's what I was told. But all these different things are things to be proud about at Fitchburg High School, and no, that's one communication that came our way. So I'm glad it was useful, and certainly that was in the May-June newsletter to parents, so we just sent that out.
Was it 50 students had perfect attendance?
Yeah, we had somewhere in the actually I think it was 60 plus. In fact, Wednesday at Senior Awards Night, we'll make a we'll have a senior who will be getting a recognition. She's unaware of this now, but she's been perfect attendance for some time, and so there's a number of Ebony is a good example of that. I mean, there's a lot of students who, I think, they show with great attendance that they do well academically and they're very involved, and not even perfect, but it's just students with strong attendance in general. But we try to recognize those who go above and beyond there. So I'm glad it was useful.
Oh, it was.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. And
Thanks a lot.
Enjoy the movie.
Yes, I will.
All right, good. All right, and now to talk to you about the amazing math race is the amazing Donna Cirilla, who is our,
I just gave it to him.
not now, who's our math curriculum director.
Hi, thanks for having me here tonight. Lizzie actually has been helping out, so if you have to leave, I was just wondering if, I hate to put you on the spot, but you've been helping out as an Honor Academy student over at Rheingold for the Math League once a week. So
Yep.
Can you just tell us your experience with that?
We go on Tuesdays. There's a group of kids. It's mostly sophomores and juniors. And we all go over to, I think, any of the elementary schools. I go to Rheingold. And we just help the kids when we walk them through the different events that they have to do. I know every once in a while there's a problem that comes along that I have to sit down with another of my classmates and be like, how do we do this? Oh my God.
Talk about rigorous.
Yeah, so it's definitely a challenge to the students, and not just that, but it's also so much fun. You should see the kids' faces light up when they're like, oh my God, I can do this. And maybe, I'm not very good at math, but I can still shoot hoops for my team, or anything. And it really encompasses a lot of the different types of learners. And that's kind of what I love about the program, because you have people who are athletic, you have people who are math-minded like I am, and you have people who are visual-minded. So, I don't know, it's fun for me at least, and it's definitely fun for the kids.
Well, thank you. Thank you for staying. If you need to go, you can go. I'll explain a little bit about what she was talking about. So I'm just here to talk about Math League. This year, I wanted to thank everybody for their support. School Choice Funds funded a math club at every school in Fitchburg. So every elementary, every middle, and the high school, and we have over 200 students. This was the first year of doing this. We started in February, and they meet once a week. We actually, originally we said we were going to have 20 to 25 students per school for a team. Then the coaches started calling me saying, Donna, how do I say no? I have like 50 kids applying. I have 60. I have parents coming in first thing in the morning, turning in the permission slip. So we got additional teachers to volunteer, and they're coming. Then we partnered with the high school, and we got the honors kids to come. So what we've started was we meet once a week, and we have different problem-solving activities, collaboration activities, and it's really to build kids' confidence in mathematics. We are inclusive. We are not exclusive at all. We want to include all kids. She was talking about the basketball and having kids. So our first competition was a virtual competition because we didn't have money for transportation, and we wanted this is local, homegrown. We started it here, small. So we had the kids compete on a certain day, and they just Skyped into each other's schools so they could say hello, and then we said, all right, get ready, get started. And they had this little competition. It was about 45 minutes at each school. And then the next day we got together, we scored all their work, and then we awarded trophies. So there were, for the middle school, Longzhou came in first place, and then the other two schools were honorable mentions. And for the elementary school, Rheingold came in first place, and the other schools were honorable mentions. So we have our culminating activity, which is the Amazing Math Race. It's based off of The Amazing Race, the TV show, but they do math activities throughout. So after the first competition, we kind of prep them on what it would be, and it's not just sitting around doing math problems. It's really working together as a team, thinking through a problem, putting forth people that you think are going to really work well for your team, making decisions, and then enacting that. So we have, we're at Fitchburg High School. It's June 11th. The kickoff will be at 6 p.m., and we end at 7 p.m., and then awards will be immediately after that. We have 30 teams. and kids, there'll be 3 sections in the field house. And one of those is that they do computation. So someone will be up, and the kids will be in a line of teams. So 5 take away 2, and really quick, they're writing it on a whiteboard. They get so many points for the correct answer, and then as many correct answers as they get to take shots on the basketball hoop to get more points. So we're trying to incorporate actually running around. We have a memory concentration game where the cards are down there, and they have to go and they have to match 2. 5 equals 2 plus 3, see if they can find a match, and then they have to run back to the team, tag them, the next person goes. We have tangrams where they're putting together different tangrams. So it's as she stated, it's for the visual kids, it's for the active kids, it's for kids that want that mental challenge. And earlier we were talking about rigorous academic after-school activities. This has just been a great program. So I'm very excited. The kids are so excited. They come to school, they can't wait for, is this Math League Day? We had one student at Crocker that actually cried one day when it got canceled for some reason, and they're like, wow, he's crying because he can't stay after and do math. So I'm very passionate about it. We're hoping that we can have it funded next year with school choice funds again and start it at the beginning of the year. As I said, this year we've been doing it just locally with 2 competitions, a virtual one and culminating with the Amazing Math Race. Next year we'd like to maybe do an online competition where we can start reaching out and do something more regional. And then who knows, maybe we can grow up into getting into some state competitions at some point. So I just wanted to share some of that excitement. The kids are really excited. I really hope, I think last school committee meeting, you got invitations to the competition. Would love for you to come and be part of that. We're anticipating over 400 people, 200 students, and if they each bring a person with them, so we're excited, and the high school's been great. The kids are coming in, they're going to help facilitate. We have alumni coming in helping to facilitate. We have lots of teachers volunteering for this, so it's an exciting program. So I just wanted to come in and let you know that there's some excitement in the air, and we're happy to have this in Fitchburg. Yeah.
Any questions?
So would it stay once a week? Is that the idea? Or
Well, I think that's a good momentum, keeping it once a week. We would probably have more competitions. We would probably try to do 3 or 4 competitions. The nice part is at the end, having everybody come together and working. The first competition was about working as a school. Now the last one is really working as a team within the school, because there'll be Amazing Math Race team winners and Amazing Math Race school winners. So it's all about sharing and working on a team and how to collaborate. It's interesting, one coach mentioned that she noticed the kids were really having a hard time collaborating. And that's another thing, bring back to your schools, like, let's talk about this. Do they problem solve together? They're working on things to build kids up in mathematics. And we want kids to be successful, and they'll be successful if they're confident and have fun with it. So this seems like it's encompassing that. Yeah. Great.
Okay, well,
Okay, thank
thanks
you.
so much, Donna.
Thank you.
So I've got 2 things related to administration tonight. The first, and I sent you an email yesterday about it, and as you know, we have been in a search mode for a new principal of Rheingold Elementary School, and the search process has gone extremely well. We had about 36 applicants overall. And then the search committee, which was made up of parents and staff members and central office folks, and I always put at least one other principal on it because they're interviewing principals, and this is going to be one of their colleagues. They got that down to 6 candidates, and then the next step is to send me 2 to 3 unranked candidates. And there's a reason for the unranked, because if they send a 1, 2, and 3, it's very possible that the 1 might not work out for some reason or not. People are in other searches, they could get another job, and I never want it to be, well, we'll settle for the second choice or the third choice. So they're really asked to send 3 candidates. Any one of these, 2 or 3, would make a good principal for that school. So this year, they sent us 2 candidates, and they were both Marthas. Martha Wiley, who is the assistant principal now at Rheingold, and Martha Clark, who is the assistant principal here. And they come and do a different interview with us. The interviews in the first part are set questions, 10 or so questions. Every question is asked exactly the same so that every candidate gets the same experience. When they come to meet with cabinet, it's really much more in-depth. We're trying to figure out how they fit in the district, maybe find out more about a particular approach that they might take or the like. So we had two great candidates, come before us. And after that interview, it was really a unanimous decision on our part that the best person for Rheingold Elementary School for the coming year was Martha Clark. And Martha Clark is here. I invite her to come up. And also Kathy Brady, who is the outgoing principal. So everyone gets to see the outgoing principal and the incoming principal. And just some of you I think Martha's been here before, so you may remember her. But when you're an assistant principal, you really kind of live below the line because you are just out straight from the moment you come in the morning till when you leave. So just to give you and people at home a little bit about Martha, she's been here for a year as the assistant principal here at the middle school. She got her master's in education from UNC Charlotte. She had her master's in administration from East Carolina College. She was principal of a K-8 school in Boone, North Carolina. She was principal of Lake Forest Elementary School, a K-3 school in Frederica, Delaware. She was principal of a K-8 school in Middletown, Delaware. She also has high school experience, and she served on statewide curriculum committees in the time that she was working down south. So she's run the whole gamut from preschool to high school. She brings an incredible level of enthusiasm. As a member of our administrative team across the district, we've had a lot of work with her, on the new evaluation system, the training, curriculum committees, different kinds of committees. She brings an incredible amount of enthusiasm to all of her work. She has a lot of knowledge that she brings to it, and she's really a nice person. She's really, I said to her today, I said, I like all this other stuff, but you're just a nice, normal person who really loves Fitchburg and really wants to be principal of Rheingold Elementary School. So I met with the staff this morning before school started and announced my decision, and it was very well received. And it was great because at the end there were two members of the staff who served on the search committee, and they both spoke up and said it was a real privilege to serve on the search committee. And what we really liked about Martha's interview is that before she left, she said, I really want to be the principal of Rheingold Elementary School. That's my goal. And I reminded them that I'd heard that before. And I heard that before from Jeremy Roach. When we hired him and we had the interview with him, when he left that committee, he said, my goal is to be principal of Fitchburg High School. So I saw that same kind of commitment, that same kind of interest. She and her husband and daughter are now living in Fitchburg. Actually can walk to work, I think.
I
could. But, so I bring her forward with great enthusiasm, and I really believe in. We all agreed when we interviewed her a year ago as the assistant principal when she left the room. I said someday I'd really like to see her as principal in Fitchburg because she would really have a lot to offer. So with that, I introduce you to Martha Clark. I had to really work at that this morning with the two Marthas as the new principal of Rheingold Elementary School.
Yay.
So this is a chance I'd like you to say a little bit about yourself and then give people a chance to ask you questions.
And thank you for all the wonderful words. I may have a lot of experience, but I never think that I've arrived or learned it all or come to any ending spot. I like to learn. I like to be extremely reflective, and I look forward to going into Rheingold and continuing the work that Kathy has done. She's done excellent work with curriculum and lots of initiatives and continuing that work and moving us forward. Cliff and I really do like Fitchburg. We didn't know quite what to think when we got here. We'd never lived in a city, if you will. Back in the 80s we did, but since then we hadn't been in a city. So we didn't know quite what to think of Fitchburg, and we absolutely adore it. We're house hunting. We're putting our stake in the ground, as my husband says. He works in Fitchburg, I work in Fitchburg, and we're going to find a house in Fitchburg and be here for the rest of our lives and be at Rheingold, and I look forward to it. I wish he could come tonight. In fact, we had that husband-wife kind of banter back and forth today. And I said, but honey, you have to come. This is the last job I'm going to have. This is the last job I'm ever going to have. You have to come tonight. But he covers the Leominster School Board meeting. So he said, I just can't. I have to go to Leominster. And I said, okay. So, but I am so honored, so very honored to work in Fitchburg and to follow Kathy's footsteps and to move Rheingold forward, continue her work to move it forward.
Do any of you have questions for Martha?
Yeah, I mean, I'd actually like to thank both Marthas for putting their names forward, and certainly the committee worked really hard and would not have put any name forward to you, Andre, if they didn't believe that any one of them could have been principal of Rheingold. You are following in some big footsteps. We absolutely adore Kathy Brady, and we will miss you in that role. But we also welcome you. We heard your resume a year ago, and I think if a principal job was open then, it would have been a shorter road. But Andre, a year, that's pretty quick. We look forward to what you can bring to the table. Most of the places that Andre said that you've been, I've actually been there. I've been to Boone. I spent time there. I've been to Charlotte. So I kind of know what you mean. It's a different world there. But at the same time, you know, they're college towns. Some of them are diverse communities. Mm-hmm. I think that you'll find nothing too new or too crazy here, but we welcome all your expertise, especially on the curriculum piece. I think at the elementary school, it's actually more critical. I think sometimes people think elementary school is just, you know, learning the basics. There's a lot of fun. It's really, really critical. And we've been doing a lot of work at the statewide level looking at ages 0 through 8 in particular, and the kind of development that happens there really affects folks for the rest of their lives. So we're entrusting you with our kids. We welcome you to the job, and we look forward to seeing you come before us many, many times in the future for school improvement plans and all the things that vice principals didn't know that they had to do.
Right. Thank you.
Like Kathy also, I know you're not going to go away from us and you're going to be around.
I will be.
Yes.
I will be around.
Yes. And,
We're going to partner together quite a bit too.
They already started. You already started over the weekend. I was watching the stuff go by.
So,
We did start a little bit over the weekend.
but I'm so glad you're coming. It's where I started teaching, 6th grade, when it first opened, and very pleased. But going back, what's happened in Fitchburg, Andre, the quality of education that's taking place. I've been on search committees where we haven't had quality and we haven't had quantity. And this shows, you know, what people think about Fitchburg now is, as an educator, a place they want to come and be, because I've been where we haven't had quality, and I'm so pleased that you're taking over, because I know Fran has talked very highly of you also, so, yeah, so thank you.
Well, and I think, you know, I hadn't even thought about that, Pete, but, you know, really, because we're in the Urban Superintendents Network, and we often hear stories about searches failing because there aren't enough candidates, and knock on wood, we've actually, a number of searches, we've had some great candidates, and we've ended up with inside candidates. But I've got to say, if I have an inside candidate who's strong and who's going to do a great job and will contribute, and an outside candidate who's equal, I will always kind of lean towards the inside candidate. Not just because you already know the evaluation system and it's going to make it easier, but, you know, there's a knowledge that develops over time, and there's, you know, I really build a team of collegiality and administrators working together, and you know, so it's really been great, and just nice to do that. And from Kathy, you know, we're not only losing a principal, we're losing a great contributor to all aspects. You know, there are so many things that we do now that if we trace them back, Kathy's been a part of it, whether it be responsive classroom, and then some of the other work. When I came, you were in central office. You know, you provided me with chocolate mints on a regular basis.
It's true.
You know, but, you know, there's just,
You bring
people
those over
spend
the
the time in a school district, and you only kind of know where they are at the time of this in the timeline, but they've had a lot of roles throughout the system. And I know you've had a lot to do with the, you know, the quality of that whole respect initiative, you know, and getting kids, and how do we talk to kids? How do kids talk to one another? That's been, your imprints are all over that. And, you know, today that's more important than not. And then just in terms of curriculum, the work you've done with DSAC this year, you know, walkthroughs, you know, the way walkthroughs, Bruce McDonald talks about the way walkthroughs are done at your school, and the quality and the depth at which all that work is done. That's a tribute to you. So, you know, as I said to you when we, you know, I offered you the job and we talked about it, similar to Jeremy, you're coming to build on a foundation. It's not, there's not something that's been destroyed or that's in need. The foundation is really great, which as a new principal, what a good place to be, you know, where you don't have to start it from scratch. So thank you to Kathy for all of your work, and I know I have your phone number, and I've said, you know, if things come up that seem to be in your line of duty, you know, we can reach out to you. So.
Yep.
Can I add a personal thing for both of them? First of all, Martha, I was the parent person on the committee that interviewed you for Memorial, and I remember when you left the room, everybody said, wow. And then the question was, yeah, but do you think she's going to stay? And so it's great that you love Fitchburg. I saw you up at the mountain, and you ski, and you said that you said that in your interview. Well, we're really close to the mountain, and I love that. So I look forward to hearing what you do at Rheingold. But Kathy, I just want to say thank you. I think one of the reasons why I'm probably sitting here is because you really encouraged parents to get involved in school council. You've created an incredible atmosphere for parents to come in for concerts and art celebrations, and I can't thank you enough for that, because that's really a lot of our only connection for working parents who really can't get in and volunteer in a classroom. That's what we get to see of our, you know, the fruits of our children and their teachers' labor. And you've really made a very sophisticated parent-teacher conference night or curriculum night. I never know, back to school night, whatever we call it here. I call it something different in every school I'm in, but thank you for that. The presentations that teachers give to parents is really impressive. So that's all your leadership, and I just want to personally thank you for the work that you've done at Rheingold. Thank you.
Yeah, and, okay. When I heard Kathy was leaving, I'll tell you, my heart just like went right to the floor. And but you know what? I had to say, you know what, Kathy, I'm so glad we had you. You know, I'm so glad you came. You came at a really good time, because you brought the school together in a way it absolutely needed to be brought together, and you bring compassion to your dealings with kids every day. I'm very fortunate because I work for myself, and I get to be in the school during the day, and I've been volunteering in Julie Boutwell's kindergarten and seeing, you know, I see great achievement, and I also see great need, because I see kids who might wear the same shirt. You know, I see kids who might not have someone like combing their hair, and I see that, but I also see those kids striving, and I see them getting encouraged, because you set the bar high on kindness and civility in a really, you know, a really wonderful way, and one that is, I think, really appreciated by everyone. You know, that building feels like a team. Those teachers are, you know, they understand the kids, and it is a, you know, it's a challenge, and it's heartbreaking. I know you've had heartbreaking things you've had to not only experience, but to have a leadership role in. I over the 7 years I've been on school committee, I mean, you know, we've sat here and heard about things, but you're right there in the front lines. And so I want to, I mean, again, I'll write you a long letter, but I want to say, yeah, she's used to my long emails. I want to say thank you, because you just like Andre said, you said, you know, there's a real foundation there. But then when I heard Martha was going to step in, I thought, oh, isn't that fabulous? Like, this was, I had no idea. Like, I'd been fretting. And then I hear this, and I thought, oh, what a great thing, because I know Martha. I work with her daughter. She's involved with my children's theater, and her daughter is a tech and can do a bunch of things all at the same time. And I'm thinking, it's like, so, like, I bet her, like you have those tech skills too. You can, multitask. And I think, how you are with kids is just right. It's just right. So congratulations, Martha. I just yelled when I saw the email. It was really great. And I'm really glad you guys are in Fitchburg, and I'm really glad you like the mountain. And we'll talk about a ski club.
Right.
I think that'd be great.
I'll chair it.
All right.
Kathy, I just saw your handprint when Donna was talking with Amazing Race. I was thinking, when they talked about collaboration, and I was thinking structured play, and it all seemed to come together, responsive classroom. So, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so important. Yes.
This was our way of getting you here to say thank you.
Thank
See?
you. But thank you to all of you.
Kathy's not an easy person to say thank you to, and doesn't,
Well, and the
like-
support of the school committee. You folks are fabulous. And Beth, I haven't had much of a chance to get to know you too long, but hello and goodbye. but the number of people, you read my emails, you read the newsletters, you respond, the support that I feel from the school committee and central office is really, there's no comparison. From day one in 1977, when you were the assistant principal in my first teaching job at B.F. Brown, and those were some tough.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don Cummings and I.
Oh yes, yes, and so
1977.
really, that's I was hired in December and
Yeah.
started January 1st,
Yeah.
right in or the 2nd after the vacation, but have been delighted. Love Fitchburg, love working in Fitchburg. Every time I've left, I've always just wanted to come back. So this is fabulous. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Martha, and welcome.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you soon.
I'm
Yes,
thrilled.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Just a quick update on Footsteps to Brilliance. We talked about it at the last meeting. We had one of those general meetings of all of the partners last week, I think it was. So we've kind of finalized. It's going to be about 150 families who are going to be impacted. Those families will be preschool families across the whole district. So it's not just in the Fitchburg Public School preschools, it's all of the preschools. We are going to be purchasing equipment ourselves. The other partners are also purchasing equipment. So we're well on our way to creating a pilot. This will be the pilot to see how does it roll out, how does it work, and then build on that. And again, given the conversation we had before this meeting, it's even making more sense than it did before in terms of really kind of refocusing our work on early childhood. So I'm looking forward to that. Okay. Cybersecurity, I sent you, I made a list of a little bit of information about this, and the word first came out. That it's, it makes us this is the first time that we've had this kind of a non-athletic collaboration between the Fitchburg Public Schools and Monty Tech. This is the first ever cybersecurity camp in Fitchburg. Never existed before. It's going to be the first week of August, is the time of the camp, and it's going to be first come, first served, which was one of the key pieces that we wanted in this program. So everyone will have access to this program, and they came and presented at Administrative Council. So, Paula was there looking in terms of, all of the things that need to be done for providing for camp. We had Pam Rivers there, making sure, so if a special education student wants to be in this camp, are the resources there to serve them? If a non-English speaking student, if someone with some sort of a medical issue, is someone going to be, and it was check, 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 check. So this is the beginning. It's never happened before. And what I'm hoping is that we become Fitchburg becomes the first in the state to really begin to create a line of a pathway right straight through our middle schools, our Fitchburg high schools, and through our own university and college, and provide for employees for cybersecurity. And it was amazing that these kids are going to be exposed to visitors from the FBI, from the NSA, from all different places are going to be part of this program. So Paul Journet, who is the representative from the military on this, who's really going to be running the camp. He came and met with all of our administrative team, talked about it. You've seen all of the press that's going to go out. There were flyers, there were posters, and all the registration will take place in our schools. And the registration form that I put together has the name and actually date and time that everyone registers. So we'll basically take those forms, and it'll be the first 50 people who sign up will go to the camp, and then if there are people that drop out, we'll go right down to the next name on the list. So I don't know if you have any other questions about it?
I just think it's great. I think it's a great, as we've talked about offline too, a great new tone of collaboration, and I think bodes well for the future. So I think it's great.
As someone who teaches in the criminal justice program at Fitchburg State, I think that this is incredible. It's great to get students interested at this level, so by the time they get to us, this is something that they are exposed to, and they might be interested in combining a computer science degree with a criminal justice degree. And
yeah, one of the things, and this has come across in like 2 or 3 different things that I've been reading, and it was, some of them were in sports and in other areas. It's amazing how many times when somebody's being interviewed later on in their career, that they actually say, I was 9 years old. I was, and it never struck me before, but like in the last 2 weeks, I've watched, different interviews with people, and they've all said that. So, we think, oh, well, in high school or whatever, but really sometimes that interest is sparked that early on. So that's what right now we're going to start with 6th, 7th, and 8th, and it's the rising 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So it's the 5th, 6th, and 7th now. Those are the folks who are going to, and if it means, and if it looks like something we can do lower, then we would do that. So great opportunity. And really great collaboration, Sodexo doing the food, and all those kinds of things. Really good stuff. Schedule for school committee meetings. It's really the same. It's the 1st and 3rd Mondays. A couple of changes because of holidays and the like. If there's anything that jumped out at you, we've looked it over a few different times. If not, it would be voted on tonight.
Yeah, and our student support, we will continue doing, I think, that first Monday of the month, so October 5th, November 2nd, as well as December 7th. So that seems to work pretty well for folks.
Okay. In administration, reorganization, I went on to the other things and I forgot this. So I've got Roanne here tonight to talk to you about an idea for reorganization of our special education administration. So as you know, come on up. One of the things that we've done in terms of the budget is that we had a pupil personnel director and 2 assistant SPED directors. So in terms of the budget, we've reduced the budget by 1 position of an assistant SPED director. As part of the conversations that Roanne and I have had, and we've had as a cabinet, we've been pushing more and more of our services and resources in special education out into the schools and into the classrooms. I would say 5, maybe 6 years ago, we probably had 5 or 6 secretaries in the SPED department. And we now have 1 data person and 1 secretary, because a lot of the work and a lot of the kinds of things that were happening in central office are now happening in the schools. So one of the ideas that we've had and that we're looking at in terms of reorganization is to maintain a pupil personnel director, which is fairly common in a school district, and have a SPED director, 1 SPED director. So that whole piece would be focused on the one person. And the person, and we have someone in place now as an assistant who is certified for that, and that is Alicia. So I'm going to have Roanne talk to you more about the ins and outs and the details of what that would look like. The reason that we're here to talk to you about it is because there's a list of about 5 or 6 positions that the school committee appoints, not the superintendent. And they're the superintendent, assistant superintendent, the business manager, the SPED director, and the last one is the nurse leader. So I think that this reorganization would be beneficial to the work that we're doing. It would really be able to centralize some of that special education work, because what you don't know is there are a lot of other things that Roanne does that are beyond that and that are outside of that. So I'm going to have her talk to you a little bit about that, and then this is a chance for questions and back and forth. If you're just coming in, Pete and the mayor, that Roanne's here to talk about, we've reduced one assistant SPED director, so now we have a pupil personnel director and an assistant, and the recommendation is to convert the assistant into a special education director. So we would have a pupil personnel director and a SPED director, and the SPED director would be the existing person who's in the position, Alicia Baraspi. So if you can talk about it.
So just so you're all familiar with my position as pupil personnel, my position really in the district is not only overseeing special education services, but guidance counselors, nursing services, and early childhood. And that spans a large group of services across the district. The 2 assistant director positions are currently under the Unit B, and as many of you are aware, about 3 years ago, we moved our team chair position not only out to the building, but moved it to an administrative level position. So really what we're looking at is that direct oversight at the district level of a need to assist that Unit B in supervision and authority making at the district level to assist those positions across the district. And that's really the point of the reorganization right now. So that person would have direct oversight primarily and only in special education services, which also incorporates a lot of responsibility along with myself. I would not give up that primary responsibility. It's really a joint effort because as you're aware, Fitchburg Public School services about 1,300 special needs students in the district. So that's a lot of responsibility and a lot of decision making that needs to happen on day in and day out. And this would allow, at the district level, a secondary person to make those decisions on a day-to-day basis. And that's really the point of the reorganization. I do have a draft job description. I already did a quick review. I've got to make some fixes, but I'll provide that to you so you can see that and kind of the roles and responsibilities.
So the goal would be to really get your feedback on this, get a sense of what you think, and if it's something that, you can either give it here or you can give it one-on-one to me, and if it's something that you feel makes sense and that you can agree with, I'll continue to work on it on the next 2 weeks, and then I would bring it back to you at the next meeting for your approval, because you have to approve this position. It's not an administrative decision.
So by elevating the assistant to the director, are there any things that the assistant position will give up to somebody else? Or is this adding on more duties?
No, this would be adding on more duties, but some of those duties, like I said, with the new reorganization that already occurred with the student program support administrators, they're picking up some of what the assistant directors do as well, and in a slight capacity. They oversee the direct responsibility of special education services in the context of each building. And then they look to the central office for guidance and support on a lot of decision-making authorities. So that's really looking at overall district needs, like where can we pull resources from? What do programs look like? Do we have other needs? And looking at that overall scope across the district.
It always also enhances the decision-making authority of that position. So right now, by creating a system where those SPSAs would report directly and consult directly with the SPED director, there's an immediacy of decision-making, which in the complexity of this special education world, sometimes, that gets diffused when you've got a pupil personnel director and you had 2 assistant directors who were not at a level where they could make those kinds of decisions. And we believe that the person who's in the position now with the certification and the qualifications that they have could very well do that middle job of working specifically with the schools in the area of only special education and not nursing and guidance counseling and all the other things that a pupil personnel person does.
So this would be Alicia's job description.
It would be what?
Yes.
Alicia's job description.
Yes.
So how does your job description change? Rowan, is that something we would look at as well, or is it?
I don't believe that my job description would change. I still have the scope and authority of overseeing the district special education as a pupil personnel, but also incorporating into that the other responsibilities around early childhood, which has a lot of responsibility at looking at that early childhood, preschool to kindergarten and really to grade 3. That's a state initiative and push, and also looking at guidance counseling, and they kind of all intermesh together. So you kind of got to look at all aspects of. So I wouldn't be giving up any aspects of special education. Really, what I need is someone that has the scope and authority to make the decisions that are needed to be made in special education on a day in and day out basis because of the need in the district.
And what I could also, and this was before we had the earlier conversation, is that if we're going to roll out that kind of a focus on preschool and kindergarten and early childhood and creating more connections with our preschools and the like, we used to have a whole early childhood department. When I came here 10 years ago, there were how many people in that department? 8 people.
Wow.
So 10 years ago, there were 8 people in an early childhood department. There were probably 12 people in central office on the 4th floor in special education. There are now 4 people in the special education department in central office, and there's no one there is no early childhood department. There was a Title I department of 6 people. There is now no Title I department. So it's interesting. You don't notice it, but when you start to look at it that way. So it's really, as we've thought about it with the reduction of an assistant, we could have just said, well, we're reducing 1 assistant director. Okay, we'll lop off the right arm. But as we started to talk about, and Rowan's the one that came to me and said, if we want to put the focus and give more decision-making authority, here's a system that might work more efficiently. And I thought it had value.
I do. I think in the past we've had where everything kind of funneled up to one person, and you had to wait for that one person to make a decision, and paperwork piled up. I think if you had a person who could make, as a director, could make decisions, would allow you a lot more latitude to work with the other responsibilities and that SPED director would not have to go to you on every little thing that they would be signing off on, because they would be the SPED director.
And it's not just the paperwork. There are things that happen in the district, staffing-wise, student-wise, meeting, that this could create more immediacy to being able to go to a school, assess the situation, and have a decision made right there, as opposed to right now.
Correct.
That doesn't happen always as quickly as we would like it to be. it's an alternative, it's an option.
You
So-
said something, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, are we looking to do a search, or?
No, this would just be, taking the person that's in the position and upgrading them to a sped director. So
Why,
that-
why not do a search?
Because we
Be
have an
attractive.
in-house person who we feel would be strong in this position, and it's the end of the school year. Sped directors, hen's teeth are, probably right up there with, their availability, but, so it's just, the approach.
There isn't an availability of good sped directors.
No, there is not.
There is not a good availability where, like you're involved with Black, but I'm involved with CAPS, and we've been through searches, and there are a number of sped openings out there. There aren't a lot of good people out there that,
Well, and I'm not somebody who's opposed to searches, but in this case, it's, we didn't even come to this, we came to the reduction in staffing by a budget process that led us to a conversation, and we're at the end of a year. I have somebody who I think and know is qualified to do the job. They not only have the certification, but they understand, the system. So as an option, it's the option that I would like to pursue at this point.
You mentioned the state push of preschool, so what,
Well, the early childhood department is really trying to incorporate preschool up till grade 3 and trying to, and they have been for several years, to have an alignment of curriculum, thinking about social emotional services from preschool to grade 3. And they're trying to have that scope for districts, because a lot of districts have a break where preschool may be very separate from, or kindergarten may be very separate from starting into first grade. And there's conferences, there's required conferences to go to. We apply for grants to access money for inclusive preschool. We also, I also help Paula with the full day kindergarten work. So we coordinate a lot together. There's a lot of work in that early childhood arena.
it just struck me how out of sync that initiative is with the budget that's put forward at the
Yes,
state.
oh yeah, absolutely.
So-
Exactly,
Totally out of
yes.
sync.
Unfunded mandates.
Right.
Yes.
About-
There is a big push for
But
full-day
we were-
kindergarten.
I forget,
and
maybe it was at the Footsteps to Brilliance meeting, but somebody at the meeting said, well, who does your early childhood? Well, why don't you just go for the early, the early childhood grant or whatever? And we said, because we don't.
BSRI.
It was BSRI. They said, well, you should go after all that money. And we said, we don't qualify for that money because we don't have an early childhood department.
There's
Sophie?
there's an early childhood community partnership grant, but Mock is the fiscal agent. It was part of when
Used to be us.
when we lost our early childhood department, and then we lost our grants department, that was one grant, and that was at the same time as the state was moving to the Department of Early Education and Care. So they were separating out early education specifically from the Department of Ed. And we didn't have the infrastructure to manage that bridge, so Mock became the fiscal agent for the early childhood grant, the community partnership grant. And good idea, because it's in the community and it supports daycare center seats and a whole funding stream for community daycare, because we have our own early childhood program. But other districts that maintain robust early childhood departments have that bridge to the community, the new department, not Department of Ed, the new department and community resources, so. But it's a very different structure for grants and funding and requirements and accreditation and, very different.
So if we do start to focus on early childhood as part of, it would be nice to have that would be one of the responsibilities that I would give to Roanne to oversee and say, okay, we don't have an early childhood department now. This is just an idea. So this is not in stone, the cement's not dry. You have to decide on this. I can only recommend. You're getting this for the first time. You haven't had a chance to look at it. You probably have a lot of questions. There's no action item tonight on the agenda, but, sometimes I don't, the way things work out, I don't always have the time and the place, like kind of the field trip to Nashua, to roll it out over a whole year. So I genuinely am looking for your feedback, either in writing, in emails, pick up the phone, call me. I like this, I don't like that, I didn't hear this, what do I need to hear? This is a genuine conversation.
My first impression, looking at this, and every year I feel like I've spent a good amount of time on special ed, but it's not enough. I feel like it's the most complicated thing we do, and I am fully in support of what we can do to support those doing special ed, because their days don't look like, their days are unpredictable, and the folks coming in, it's very unpredictable, and working not just with the students but with the parents who are at various stages of just not always organized, but also it's just everyone's in a challenge position, and so having someone who's going to be supporting this crucial piece, I think it's great we have someone who's here who's familiar with us, because the continuity, Martha spent a year at Memorial, now she moves to Rheingold, she's familiar with Fitchburg. I view that as a real strength. And I think we can't ever get out in front of this until people at the state level just say, oh, we need to really be spending a lot on special education as well as early childhood. Because if we spend it on early childhood, then all of the special education, issues and circumstances will be much more visible much earlier. So we're not there yet. So this looks great. Thank you, Rowan, for doing this, and thank you, Andre, for bringing it forward. There's this is the most complicated, Paula, is there anything more complicated than special ed?
Teaching kindergarten. So one thing that I'm taking away is, I've given you this job description, but I'm going to forward you Rowan's job description, because I think it's kind of hard you're getting one job description, and one of the questions was, well, Rowan, what did you do, whatever. So tomorrow I will forward you the pupil personnel director's job description. You'll have this job description. So you've got the two, and see, okay, how did they work together, what's different, whatever. And then I would appreciate, whatever feedback you can get me, so that I can either redirect this in a different way or whatever. I would like to, if possible, be able to bring it one way or another to our next meeting.
That's what I would like, because we'd like to get this going for July 1, and get it going.
But I don't want to give the impression that I'm trying to rush something through. So if you need more time, then you need to let me know that.
Will the job description, Rowan's job description that you send us, will that be her current job description, and will that change at all in light of this position?
I'd have to ask you that. When you think
Well,
of
the one piece that might change would be the direct
Just
oversight of the director.
Right.
It says assistant director in there, but that piece would change, where I would still have direct oversight over the director of special education.
But other than that,
I would still be responsible for the job duties that I have day in and day out.
One of the pieces that now, while she's running from school to school, figuring out what's the latest thing that needs to be done in a particular classroom,
Right.
she's also doing the CPR reports, responding to the state reports. This week, or last week, I got 3 different letters about, reports and this has to be done. So there's, sometimes that work gets in the way of the immediacy of the other work, which is happening in a school on a particular day. And potentially, this could change that, but we will only see. So we'll go back and, I'll ask Rowan and Rick to look at the job description tomorrow, and then send that to you. But I will send you the one as is. That says this is her job description now, and then I'll ask Rick and Roanne to start doing is, now take that and is there anything that's here that would come out of that? Or is there anything that's not in there that would come into it? So you'd have 3 in the end. You'll have this one, you'll have Roanne's present job description, and then you'll have whatever it would look like under a new reorganization.
Could I recommend that we send this to the school personnel subcommittee?
Okay.
That's Beth, Pete, and myself, and we have many meetings in the next couple of weeks. That might be a better place to discuss it and bring forward a
Okay.
recommendation, so.
Okay. All right. Anything else on that? Okay, thank you, Roanne. So there's the schedule of school committee meetings. So then, in terms of the budget, as you look at this budget book, I think almost all of the things in this budget book, except for the Munis report, you have seen already. So what I asked Bob to do tonight is to talk to you about this Munis report, walk you through it, and then, answer any questions that you might have regarding that. But the rest of these things are regular reports. It's the all of the pieces from the different schools, summaries of kind of what they're doing. But I thought, let's start by focusing on the Munis report, and then if there are other parts of this budget book that you'd like to go back to, we can do that too.
So I guess first of all, I'd like to say that this year we really have a report generated out of Munis. So what you're looking at when you look at the each department or school's budget is a report that was generated from Munis, not built up by spreadsheets. So this really represents a change in one thing that I've tried to accomplish for several years. So this is a different format, and what's also different about it is that I've included the 2014 actual, and I'll just start with how I'm presenting it. With the 2014 actual, just as really a basis for comparison, then 2015 original budget, what the school committee originally appropriated. Then last year there was a $300,000 additional appropriation, and if you just look at the cover sheet, that brought the budget up to $49.5 million last year, and then the 2016 requested budget, which is at $50,200,000. So what I'm going to do, as Andre mentioned, is I'm going to go through each of these either department level or school level budgets, and really just to highlight where the changes that were recommended in the second budget presentation show up on a line-by-line basis. Okay. So, and if there's no change, I'll just say that. So the first department is school committee.
Page
1.
Page 1.
It's in section 10.
Section 10, page
Section
1.
10.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. No change in the school committee department presentation. In the administration office page, which is page 2, we've put a placeholder in for salary adjustments for next year. As has been discussed tonight and at other meetings, there are 7 contracts that expire this year. That amount is a placeholder. Portion of those funds are already spoken for in terms of step increases and or prior contract increases. And we'll be discussing, I guess, the detail with the personnel committee very shortly, and with the Unit A folks. So second line where there's an addition or reduction, I'm going to focus on those line items only. Keep in mind that all these 2016 requested amounts are largely, especially salary, are based on this year's salaries because the contracts have not been finalized. So once contracts are finalized and people receive whatever adjustment they may receive, that'll then be distributed throughout all the individual schools and departments. Okay, so I just want to point that out at the get-go. In the business office, in my department, we're going to be having a reorganization in that department. Actually, with the approval tonight, I plan to post a financial operations manager type position I did have a retirement in my department a few months ago now. We're looking at really improving the systems and processes for the school district and working with the city to achieve those efficiencies. And also with the amount of reporting that we have to do internally and externally, that amount was agreed by cabinet as something to go forward with, and that has been presented in the prior two budget hearings. In the second or third line, this professional staff development, that reflects the reduction of the English language arts director, that 85,509 salary. The testing evaluation line for 45,000, that was inserted in the budget, well, this current fiscal year. It was unutilized. It did not exist in the 2014 budget, so we're recommending removal of that 45,000. The next line item where there's a change is the substitutes for $53,000. And if we can just put that as a placeholder right now, because I'm going to talk to that at one individual school's budget. So that $53,000 reduction is an offset to an increase in one individual school, and I'll talk about that later. At Crocker Elementary School, the $60,000 represents the increase of a kindergarten teacher and para.
Remember when we were doing this over the process, we weren't sure where that was going to end up, where the kindergarten was going to be.
So that's what you just said?
Yeah, so at Crocker, under
Yep.
Crocker,
Under
there's
Crocker,
an increase of $60,000
in the faculty line item.
That's where the kindergarten teacher ended up,
Sure.
and we were able to, because there was no room, but we're moving a preschool that's now at Crocker to the high school where there's an additional space. So that's freeing up a room for a kindergarten.
So moving on to page 4. The only line item that I don't believe was included in the prior budget presentation, the second reading, is at Fitchburg High School with the change in block schedule, or away from the block schedule, and looking at Jeremy's needs. He recommended the reduction of one of the assistant principals who has since found, or just recently found, employment for next fiscal year at another, actually at a collaborative, a technology collaborative, and use those funds to hire faculty in the, to accommodate that new schedule. With the $70,000 being, difference being the increase for an ELL, teaching professional there.
So one thing, Bob, I noticed the percent changes on here.
Yep.
Minus 82,000, that's not, I was an English major, but some math isn't my strong suit. But
You
it's
know,
0%, but I noticed.
even English majors can pick that out. I'll adjust that. I'll revisit that. And
I know,
I'll,
on the other page too, it mentioned.
yeah.
On page
I'll get
2.
that. Yeah, this is, I think this is one of the, I'll say, the learning curves when we're running these reports out of Munis.
Yeah. And I noticed on page 2, while you're at it.
Yeah.
Total
I-
admin office down 120%.
Yeah.
Which I was gonna send you my condolences on all of you being out of work. I think we're keeping.
Yeah,
it
that
safe.
one,
Zero
yeah.
is the new 120.
Yeah.
We've actually changed the pages of this twice today, because we keep looking at it, or something comes in, it's a different thing, or a staff member or whatever, and having to, to do that. And that's one of the things we say, even at this point, things will happen and change, and the way this looks, the thing that won't change is the bottom line.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, yeah, thank you.
Okay,
So
so
that
that,
152 is
Right.
minus the 82 plus.
what's actually, it represents the transfer
Well,
from,
transfer of the
of
82.
82 plus
82
70,000,
Okay,
which,
and
which is,
ELL and
right, correct.
unnamed teachers or additional added teachers?
Physics teacher, a world language teacher,
Okay,
and I believe the ELL.
but it's actually additional people.
Yes.
There is additional staff.
To accommodate the new 7-drop-2
Yeah.
schedule.
Okay.
And
Well, I
the
was always
ELL
wondering what
teacher
that
is part of Bonnie's responsibility in terms of looking at staff numbers and percentages, and in order to be in compliance.
Reply to the CPR.
To reply to the CPR, we had to add an additional ELL teacher at the high school.
Okay. Moving forward to page 5, Memorial Middle School. We projected that we would be adding 3 teachers at the middle school level. One addition is reflected here in the faculty line item at Memorial, and the addition of 2 other middle school teachers is reflected in the faculty line item at Longs Joe.
And that's due to the 5th grade bubble.
Enrollment bump. Okay.
So they're not actually here.
One will be here. There were 3. One is going to be here, 2 at Lonjo.
I thought this was the school you said was absorbing like the biggest influx.
No.
No.
No, right from the beginning, it was one here. There's no space here.
Okay.
There's space here only for 1 more classroom.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Next page, page 6, Rheingold. Status quo there in terms of staffing and budgeted expenses. Same page 7 for South Street.
Did we get a retirement at Rheingold and Clerical? There's a. It's like almost a $17,000
Same.
goes down.
It's it's the same from this year, last year to this year.
Oh, right, you're right. Sorry. Reading 215.
Okay. South Street, no change. In special education, as Rowan mentioned earlier and what had been communicated before, number 1 was the reduction of one of the assistant directors, who is, will now be becoming the special education director in Reading. The addition of 1 faculty member at a location to be determined, and then a reduction in paraprofessionals for $83,000. And as we do, well, every spring and really throughout the year, we're constantly reviewing students who we have in out-of-district placements and collaboratives. And with the circuit breaker being fully funded next year, and based on what we see as our projected tuitions, again, which is one of the variables which could always change, we are currently forecasting a $250,000 decrease in the tuition to collaboratives there.
But that could change with the moving van.
Right.
On
Correct.
But
Yeah.
we'd have to deal with it next year.
And as for the reduction in paras at an early meeting, I think, as Paula pointed out, that's based on IEPs?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so
I think that's 3.
Yes.
What line item are you looking
Four.
at there?
the paraprofessionals. line item.
Paraprofessionals, right below faculty, it's
About a third of the way
83,000
down.
reduction.
Okay, so that's circuit breaker fully funded.
Page 9, English language learning programs, no change.
Well, I can remember when that was a big number. Big number. No more bilingual director.
School building maintenance, really no changes in terms of the dollar amounts, what had been presented at prior presentations, but again, in summary, we have better gas pricing for next year, and we've achieved some electricity savings by use of all these new lights that we've installed over the last few years. The $70,000 increase in maintenance of buildings contracting, that represents a temporary boiler rental for Crocker Elementary School. We've looked at, the options of, do we go ahead and try to buy one? If we did purchase one this year, that would be paid 100 cents on the dollar by the city, at about $600,000, pending the final or the recommendation from the strategic facilities use plan, and given kind of 100% of 600,000 or 100% of 70, some uncertainty or just not known yet, we felt that this was the right step at this time. Then lastly, on school building maintenance, we have $200,000 in maintenance salaries. We had mentioned in the prior budget presentation that we're seeking operating efficiencies. City purchasing is investigating outsourcing options for the cleaning of the buildings, and this could potentially impact 17 junior custodians.
So,
Bob, that would come back to us, school committee, before we would enter into any.
We could bring it back, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
well, I feel very strongly that it has to come back, because this is, I really hadn't seen what that number was till today, so.
The 200,000 has been in all the budget presentations.
Well, in terms of like what effect that would have, I guess this is like
Okay.
the first I really
Yeah.
am understanding
Yeah,
that
sure.
we're looking at junior custodians.
Yes, that's correct.
That hasn't been used as language.
That's correct.
So I really think we need to be able to investigate that more.
Yeah, and we, because we were in the process of negotiations and everything, you're developing the budget at the same time, and, you don't know what you know until you know it, and that's
Right.
why this is the first time we're able to kind of say, okay, here's what we're looking at, but absolutely fine.
Okay.
And just for clarity, we have spoken with the unit leaders last week, and they have communicated, the options that we're considering to their membership as well. So.
All right.
So, voting on this tonight with that line item in there, we're not.
It doesn't,
It's not
I
like
think it
to
doesn't
any particular
because
course of action
it's two
in that
separate
regard.
things.
Yeah.
Right.
There are
Yeah.
negotiations going on, this is how I think of it, but correct me if I'm wrong. So, what you're voting on is a budget that's related to the money, but in that, you're not voting on the process. That if the process involves negotiations, that's your area, and that's what you'd have to vote on separately.
We could make decisions to find that money someplace else and make.
Right.
Yeah, and,
But what you also need to know is that that proposal was part of getting to a balanced budget.
Right.
Well, right, that's the big concern.
So, right, well, because if it wasn't that,
Right.
it would be
It's something else.
$200,000 in teachers or something else. So, and that's okay, because the budget is yours, you own the budget. So, those are things that are still always movable, and they're even still movable after the budget is approved, because they all hinge on negotiations and other kinds of things. So, once you vote it and you give it to me, I'm the one that's left with whatever you do, I have to live with, and then it would be my task to figure out how I was gonna do that.
Yeah. So I think, Gene, this is just the budget voting on and nothing else.
Right, yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the bottom line's the bottom line.
Yeah, and but by voting on the budget, you're not necessarily agreeing to certain things. You may still disagree with something and not, by voting on the money part, you're not saying, well, and I think that's the way to do it. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Moving on to page 11, transportation services. Again, with the regular day transportation, $66,000 contracted increase. Special education transportation really reflects the increase in summer programming as a result of, again, juggling all the circuit breaker money around. That's what, and increased ridership, as Roanne mentioned. We have now, roughly 1,300 students on IEPs. A subset of those students require transportation in the IEPs.
Bob, just a quick question. It's very small, but we've budgeted the same thing for crossing guards. We don't do negotiations with crossing guards, or
No.
we just keep a,
You're not part of a union or anything.
like,
No.
10-cent raise or anything?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know, it's never come up.
I guess that would be something for the personnel.
okay, yeah,
If you wanna-
because,
if you wanna bring it up.
because,
Yeah.
because,
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
want to bring it up, we'll
Yeah.
bring it up in a personnel
Okay,
meeting.
yeah,
Talk
yeah,
about-
yeah.
Moving on to page 12, the athletics programs. The only addition or change is the $42,000, really as a result of decreased gate receipts, the revolving account. It's really become necessary for the district to support the loss of those funds, which had funded various expenses for athletics. We want to maintain the same level of services. In alternative education, the faculty salary line item reflects the absorption of the loss of the Race to the Top grant that had funded salaries.
Does everybody get that one?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Page 14, system arts. Again, going back to prior presentations, this was a department that we did not have a arts director, and the expenses for arts across the district were funded out of school choice. So we're just doing the necessary cleanup here to remove that from the operating budget here. Page 15, Longsdale Middle School. As mentioned earlier, the additions reflects the addition of 2 teaching staff at Longsdale. Okay.
And that's related to the population bubble?
Yes, yeah. Okay. And then for McKay Arts Academy, now I guess as part of having the budget prepared out of the financial system, one of the things that we're doing this year is actually combining the elementary school and middle school budgets. Historically, elementary had been McKay Elementary School. The middle school had been in your budget book as a former Fitchburg Arts Academy. We're combining them now. This is the first year. So remember in the first, or actually it's page 2 in the administration offices, or the budget, where we had a substitute line item reduction of $53,000. That $53,000 reduction, and this is really a temporary reduction, I'll call it, to make the budget balance, and the $32,000 reduction in paraprofessionals will help support the addition of a new assistant principal at McKay Arts Academy. Lourdes had met with Cabinet, and given that this is now one of our largest schools, K through 8, that this was really in the best interest of students and programming
She
at the
came
school.
here at the last
Yeah.
meeting. and-
Yes, we
Yeah.
voted that last
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
So that's, again, so the 85 minus the 32 equals the 53 on page 2.
And that Paris is also IEP driven? Is that part of that, the reduction in Paris, is that based on?
No, home liaison and security para,
Okay.
not sped
okay,
para
okay.
reduction.
Will we get the McKay budget, will we get their budget that they work with? Or what, is McKay gonna get 3.5, 2.5, 2.37, you know?
They get the amount and then they develop a budget.
That's what,
So this, again, so what the number that's shown here, Pete, kind of as I said earlier, is based on this year's numbers, and however the contracts are settled for faculty, it'll all kind of flow back.
there's nothing in there that we're paying that, you know, so this is what they're gonna work with?
Right, and that's
Yeah.
what they work with, but McKay, like all of the other schools, and this is, what I was talking to Bob about this morning, so once negotiations are over and whatever is agreed upon for increases, the district will provide,
Yeah.
not only for McKay, but for all of the other schools, the district provides that extra money. So nobody goes to them and says, well, now we've just agreed to this and you gotta go find this someplace. And that's kind of the complexity of how it works, whether you're a separate school or not a separate school. But we've been in, so we have different, while all of this has been going on, the McKay staff have been working on new bylaws with their advisory board. They've been reviewing the innovation prospectus to create an innovation plan, to finalize it into an innovation plan. And then we've also been working with the Department of Education and their liaison, Kathleen Cross, to develop a financial agreement, not only for us and McKay, but that's possibly going to be used in the state for other school districts that have innovation schools. So I've been in communication with the board director, Lisa Moisen, and the principal. They've got a timeline because I want to be able to bring all of those things to the school committee at your next meeting, which is June 16th. Because they're all things that you have to be aware of, because we're equal partners in the innovation school with Fitchburg State University.
Yep,
So
and-
that's a parallel.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of looking at teacher conference, tutors, 9,000 for tutors. They don't need a tutor if they don't want to have one, is that correct?
Right, these,
I mean,
the
they can,
line
they can,
items in here.
they can move them around.
Right,
Yes,
the
they're
line items
discretionary
in
spending,
here
yes.
are just, because those are the same line items we use, they're
Yeah.
here for that.
Yeah.
But within their own,
Then they can, if
right.
they wanted to take that, we'll say, 18.5 and move it into something else, then they
If
could.
they wanted to
Yeah.
take the 18.5 and said, you know what, we really do need that security para.
Yeah.
We're gonna,
Move it
but
back and,
they would have to come here, because if they're moving something
that would
out of
be a line item
supplies
transfer,
into
come to
personnel,
finance committee.
they just have to come
yeah,
here.
yeah, or just here, yeah.
Right.
One item that, Andre, I don't think you mentioned is actually, in addition to all those things that we're working on with McKay, we're looking at updating the agreement between the schools / city and Fitchburg State. So we're looking to have something brought to the school committee for the next meeting as well.
So
Jake
that,
Wright's
that
working
June
on that.
16th, there's just a lot of things that are gonna be, on that agenda. But that doesn't mean you can find something else to do that night and avoid it. You need-
So I get just one last thing on this then
Yeah.
for tonight. So, the only things that aren't covered in this budget would be the principal and the nurse, which is.
The nurse,
which are university
one
employees.
clerical person,
The
front office
principal, the
clerk,
nurse, and one clerical person.
and the janitorial staff is all Fitchburg State as well.
Right.
But to Pete's point, this number would be what they can
Yes.
Yes.
mess around with it. So if they decide that, hey, we're just gonna go to Chunky's every day, do field trips every day,
Right.
$3.5 million worth of field trips.
Well,
good
and
to
I
me.
think, I think what.
I'm not
Lourdes-
recommending that as a
But I
parent
think
of a
what
kid.
Lourdes brought to you last week was an example of that. It was their idea to reduce those two positions and look
Yeah.
to add a vice principal.
I think it was a
That's
very
not-
wise decision to make.
That's not
yeah.
what we have anywhere else, but they did that. What was different is we agreed to also help to support that, which we're doing.
Yeah.
Because
So-
it makes sense for the kids in that school.
So with the new, reviewed innovation plan, is that gonna be ready by June 16th?
It's supposed to be. The timeline that Lisa Moisen has given me is that all of those things, they're working them through, they've got subcommittees. They, I think she said they were gonna add some of their advisory board meetings. They needed to add an additional one or something in order to bring these to the advisory board. So they've gotta do all of that so that then they can give it to me and I can bring it, because we need to, if there's a innovation plan that needs to be finalized, you have to see it and you have to vote on that.
But it's not being developed in a vacuum, and that
No.
this would be meeting the spirit and letter of
Yep,
the
right
innovation
here.
plan.
This is the, yeah.
So then they will just do what
Yes.
they.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right, good,
Yeah.
good. That's a
Kind of
good
clear
path
to me.
forward.
I hope everybody sees it that clear.
So in the last page, page 17, grand totals, and I will send out a revised version with the correct percentages, learning curve here on systems.
This is, if you've been here before, this looks different. So we're adjusting to this also. I'm not sure it was caught with, we used to transfer information from Excel spreadsheets to the Munis and then input it into the Munis. What we're able to do now is we're getting live reports right out of the Munis, which is why it looks like this. And maybe you can explain it better, Bob. That's the way I
No, that's
understand
pretty,
it.
cool. Yeah, that's accurate.
Does the program have the capability to give us running tallies as we sign warrants and we, because I find like that would be actually the most useful information to me to see distribution as the year goes
Well,
through.
on the monthly reports, it has kind of what's been spent and what's remaining. That's really probably the best.
Do you
most
see the
concise.
monthly report?
We don't see that. They sort of-
You used to do
Not
that, we
anymore.
haven't done that recently,
They're
but
available in the office.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll, I can I'll email them out. I just.
Because what
ran
it
off.
does is it'll say, whatever the amount was, and then on a particular month, it'll say 40%.
Yeah, that's what I would love to see.
Oh, yeah. The principals get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and I have been giving them to the school
If we
committee.
are
There might be a
supposed to
couple
see
months that.
Okay.
I used to it.
So he's gonna email those to you.
Yeah.
I used to like, when schools develop their budgets more, I like to see it, but, when a school would ask for 40,000 for new textbooks, and then in January, they still had almost 40,000, and I wanted to know why they were, so, but that's not happening anymore.
So from my past days of covering the city's budget hearings, this is more like what the other departments produce, isn't it? That when they do their budgets? Is this more like what, like the police department budget would look like when they're reviewing it, or is this still a different animal?
I don't know, I've never seen
Yeah, I
another
don't know.
department's
I
budget.
mean, this really isn't that much of a variation, Matt, than what we've presented, that we have available. And what I show is this year's FY15's approved spending, and recommended FY16 proposed spending. And as I did last year, when the budget was approved, my goal is to have both the city budget, the 50.2, and the school choice budget approved simultaneously, so you can get a flavor for what's coming before you in one tranche, so to speak. One of the comments you made, Pete, and just for, probably Beth and everybody's, reminding everybody, is our school-based textbooks and instructional supplies were removed from the operating budget. I'm looking at Andrea, about maybe 4 or 5 years ago now. It's been several years that we've actually been funding them now out of school choice. In addition, $85,000 is roughly what it costs to supply paper across the district. Middle school sports, we're recommending continuation. That's been a great feeder program and has had other benefits for the students. And there's more information in the athletics narrative on that middle school sports as well as athletics in general. The middle school STEM scholars, something that we started this year with Matt Koski. We're recommending continuation again. The play is the Fitchburg High School play, so next year will be the 4th year. Art supplies, as I mentioned earlier, with the removal of the arts budget, and even prior to that, the supplies for this fiscal year were funded from school choice. We're recommending continuation.
And just so you know, I've just taken that in my office, so I've communicated to the art teachers basically I took the budget that they had last year, I sent that out to them and said, here are the appropriations. I got a few emails back with specific kinds of things, made those adjustments, so they're going to send their art supply budgets to Patty. I say me, I mean Patty. They're going to send it to Patty, and then Patty's going to put all of those through. But like today, I got an email, the high school kiln is living its last leg. So, I said, well, let's look at that. Find out what that would cost, give me a proposal. So, that may be showing up somewhere. But, so someone is seeing to the art teachers.
Okay. Again, the ally salaries, we're recommending continuation of 6 faculty positions there. School purchasing, we are continuing our commitment to the deputy procurement officer to help us. The high school auditorium upgrade, we didn't get that done this year, so those funds were not spent in FY15, but we're in the process of putting the bid and specifications together now, so hopefully that will be done next fiscal year. I just don't know when. The MIMSI initiative, next year's commitment increased to $41,000. Wanted to include that up here. Again, some of the creative and innovative programming that we're offering to students. One of the projects that we've been working on for now, well, a couple of years, has been new electronic signs at Fitchburg High and Goodrich. We finally have some proposals. We're actually in the process of reviewing some of the proposals, and I'm slated to go in front of the zoning committee next Tuesday night again, because we've been getting 6-month extensions there. In public relations, this is for our public relations person who happens to be here tonight. She's done a great job for us. So really, when we add all these up, the pluses and minuses, we project about 1.2 million going out, a little under 1.1 million coming in from projected receipts. So our school choice would be going down. It'd be like a checking account going down about $130,000. And just to put it in perspective, as of April 30th, before we balance our checkbook, so there might be some things still in process there, we had about 1.6 million. Okay.
So this is what we're spending, not what's in the, not what's in the account. So right now, there's about 1.6 in the checkbook.
So even if
And
we're
if-
down 130.
Right, and if we
Right,
spend
exactly.
everything next
We're
year,
still
but
gonna
as you
be
saw, the
1.4.
high school sound sim didn't get
Yeah.
used, so not everything might get expended. The signs will, for sure.
And that projection, like, when do we know, or, I mean, when do we get that firm number of kids that are choiced here? When do you see those numbers?
That's already, that was in the report we got from the state, the projection for next year.
Yeah, these are based on cherry
Okay, they're
sheets.
based on-
That's based
Okay.
on,
Yeah.
yeah, that's based on the cherry sheet.
Okay.
Couple other sections here that I would point out. Again, I know this package was received by many of you on Friday. The net school spending summary, probably ad nauseum, we've shared the Chapter 70
What
information.
number?
Page.
This is actually, excuse me, tab number 4. So, and I'm just going to go through this at a very, very high level and quickly. Again, the city and the school committee tonight is voting on at the top of the second page after tab 4. The city's projected contribution, what's being voted on tonight, is 50.2 million. The projected indirect charges, and again, that's based on the most recent cherry sheets, and really that's our best estimate at this time. The numbers in those indirect charges could go up and down. As the mayor mentioned earlier tonight, if health insurance costs are less, we benefit, so to speak, on the direct spend side, but those are currently held at the indirect level. And lastly, grants accounts for about a little over $5.5 million of funding. And I just want to talk briefly about that later as well. So if we turn the page. If we go to the FY16 funding summary, the halfway down the page, again, proposed budget for vote tonight, 50.2 million. The proposed indirect charges. The city, from a net school spending, transportation exclude. Transportation is not an eligible expense, so that gets subtracted. Then the department budget for the schools after that is roughly 62 million. And then when I add the grants in, again, which has no net school spending, impact on net school spending calculation, but just from a monetary perspective, we're looking at about $67.7 million. Okay? And what in terms of percentages, what you're voting on tonight versus the total for the budget is about 81% of operating funds. Okay, is that clear? There's a couple ways we can look at that, and I'll talk about it a little bit more. But the Chapter 70 aid for next year is 73% of operations, and when you divide that by the 50.2, we're closer to 91. So going down to the last block on this page, the required net school spending, again, going back to the Chapter 70 page, is about 62.3 million. Again, based on the numbers that we're looking at, we're at about 62 million. So next year, again, it's projecting about a $334,000 shortfall, which from a maintenance of effort, the city, it's just about 99.5%. And historically, well, the law or regulation in Massachusetts is if you're under 5%, you can make it up in the following year. The goal is not to fall too far behind, and the city has made taken actions with additional appropriations over the recent, I think, 3 or 4 years now, to make sure that we stay pretty close to net school spending.
Because that compounds if they don't. Right, it
That's
doesn't
up,
go away.
Yeah, it
So
adds
if they're
up.
short $500,000 in FY14, and then they're short 300,000, really they're short 800,000.
So
That's
that is
what this shows.
Yeah, so if we turn the page one last time, the last page on net school spending. So thanks for that segue, Matt.
Oh, English major after all.
Yeah, there you go. We'll convert you to a finance major before the year's over. Again, estimated shortfall for this year was around 765,000, plus the estimated shortfall for next year, and again, just looking on next year alone, is 333. As the mayor mentioned earlier, the city is looking to make an additional allocation this year. But until that's finalized, I haven't included it in our 49.5 million for this year, so I'm keeping it separate. So again, the estimated cumulative net school spending shortfall could just be a hair under $800,000. Okay. So the last item that I just want to
Bob,
Yeah.
if the 300,000 goes against the shortfall of 765, so we're only short this year 465,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so,
correct.
and if health insurance and some of the other things that could benefit us, or
It could.
Yeah, yeah. No.
Again, some of these, there's, again, variables could go up or down based on, again, what
Yeah.
we estimate now. That's, again, and that's why I intentionally have estimated next to all of these numbers.
So it actually, for this year, we ended up with like 99.5 roughly.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's pretty close.
That's pretty close. I think the mayor and city council have done a good job.
Just one last thing, and this is really just for, I don't say education, but, I talk about the 4 buckets of money with principals. We have the city budget at 50.2 million. We have school choice, which is roughly 1.2 million. We have capital, which separately we go through the city and bonds and all that. But the last source of operating funds is grants. And if you can just turn to 6D cab, I really don't want to spend a whole lot of time going over it, but if you look at the first page of page 11, and from a context standpoint, at a little over 5.5 million, and I'm going to use myself as a personal reference point here, more coincidental than anything. But in FY09, which was my first year here, we were at about $8 million of grant before ARA. Now the red is the ARA funds. So if I excluded ARA, we've gone from 8 million to 5.5 million.
Yeah.
Okay, because ARA
7
money
years.
in 7 years. So when Andre and Paula talk about, the loss of Title I, early childhood, other funding sources. Again, we've had some enrollment changes since that time period as well, but from a grants basis, you can see that we're down significantly. I don't know if there's anything, Paula, you want to add. Again, they're
No,
just,
the grants are very unstable.
and they're becoming more, competitive. So I would recommend you all to just look over some of the, the narrative. Callie Cavallo has put in a lot of time updating this information. Again, one of the grants that at this time we are optimistic but may have to be realistic is the full-day kindergarten grant, which if it is not supported by the Commonwealth would represent potentially another $180,000 impact for next fiscal year.
Where, do we have a contingency? Where does that come from?
Well, I guess we would, have to, the mayor and us would have conversations about what potentially the allocation, or, to catch up on the net school spending would be, and look and see where we're at.
So our vote on this
So
budget
tonight,
doesn't preclude what those other.
so tonight, there's, other than the 2 grants on the school committee agenda for your vote, the grants information here is informational purpose and context only.
So the assumption, I know, has been that we will continue the full-day kindergarten, and we'll find that money.
We will
someplace
continue the
else.
full-day
It's,
kindergarten.
we're committed.
So the bottom line is what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
We'll just figure it out.
Yeah.
And just a word, the other grants, you've been in the same position every year. We won't, I spent the day at the Department of Ed workshop on Title I and Title II grants. We won't have those allocations until probably early July. We're anticipating level funding, but they always give us guidance because of our census data. We're in a range for the hold harmless. It's a federal formula where they can't give us anything below 95% of the grant. It's a federal formula. So you always, at this point, start planning the grant for that 95% range. In all likelihood, it will be level funded. But same with the Title III grant, the ELL grant. None of those grants are firm until the state gets its federal allocation, and they calculate what the local education departments will get.
Because we're all school-wide, Paula, could you use any of that money for kindergarten teachers, or is it all spoken?
You can't supplant.
Okay.
Rules are the same.
Yeah, haven't changed.
Haven't changed. Same, that's true about all the federal dollars. They can't be used to supplant any regular function of the school department around staff or materials or benefits. It's supplementary only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Supplemental kindergarten.
So that's the budget. And the only thing that's on here that has not been talked about already, because we've just gone over basically the school choice items that you're going to vote on, is a donation from United Solutions to McKay, and it's for United will donate plastic baskets. The plastic mini baskets will be used for classroom libraries, and utility baskets will be used for standardized test management, and that's a donation of $864. So thank you, United Solutions.
All right, anybody here wishing to speak on any agenda items? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the action items, starting with the school committee calendar for 2015-2016.
Motion to accept the calendar.
Second.
Just some comments on that. I think it would be nice for us to have a retreat this summer, so we'll have Patty send out those dates. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 540. This is the approval of the $50.2 million, the $50 million, $200,000 budget.
Motion to accept the budget.
Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So 541 through 552 are school choice items. Does anybody want to?
Motion to include all the school choice items under one.
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The school choice funds pass. Moving on to 553, this is the donation from McKay.
Motion to accept the donations.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Submitting the McKinney-Vento and fresh fruit and vegetable grants.
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Second reading of the comprehensive sexual education health policy.
Motion to accept it.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Second reading of the homework policy.
Motion to accept homework policy.
Motion made a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. And then a dead warrant for 600,
To pay the bills?
200, 624,000. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. No executive session. Is there a move to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.